Welcome to the National Inventor Club. I'm your host, Brian Freed, and the founder of National Inventor Club. And we like to get great information out to our community. And one of the main topics that have been coming up recently is, hey, Brian, I invented this product. I commercialized it. It's being sold, and I have it on Amazon. And now, not only am I selling it, somebody else is selling it. I got a patent on it. I might have a copyright. I might have a trademark. So, Brian, what should I do? And I've heard it many times. So, what I did was I found through one of our community members, I found Bill McKenna from Woodard Emhart Law Firm. Welcome to National Inventor Club, Bill.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Great. Bill, why don't you start off? Tell us who you are, what you do for a living, and about your law firm. So I could guess that you're probably an attorney.
Absolutely. I've been an attorney just a little under 20 years now. Um, I work for a law firm here in Indianapolis where we are a specialty boutique firm. So we do intellectual property and related issues, patents, copyrights, trademarks, that type of stuff. And the online marketplace, has taken over and become a significant portion of our business. And it's always interesting because everything moves at a much higher pace online than it did in the traditional markets where, it took months to get things into retail stores and product development cycles were long. Now we see people wanting things to happen in days and weeks. And, it really creates interesting questions for the intellectual property world. There have been some good developments in that arena, one of which we're going to talk about today, of ways that people can go ahead and try and combat these problems when they occur.
Look, you don't have to be in a major mass retail store to be successful these days. Pretty much anybody can have a product and put it on Amazon. But look, us inventors, we go through the brainstorming, we go through the prototyping and engineering if that's needed, and then we start to create our product. We find a manufacturer. Now we're in business. We have a patent pending. We have a patent issued. We're trying to protect ourselves with certain intellectual property. And then all of a sudden, somebody else is selling the same thing as us. And I know, Bill, from speaking to you, that you were one of the pioneers with Amazon on kind of figuring out how to handle this type of situation. So maybe you can share that with us.
Yeah, so sometime well before the pandemic, 16, 17, I had a client that we obtained a patent for on a very unique but easy to manufacture product. And the product took off and did tremendously well. Um, and we quickly noticed that eBay, Amazon, a lot of these other online marketplaces, we had infringers popping up that were just purely products being imported from China, made without our authorization and undercutting our prices, and even more concerning, low quality products. And this was a food related item. The primary concern was if somebody tries one of these infringers, they're going to be totally turned off by the market and they may never try my, legitimate, genuine product was the concern. And back at that time, there was really no specialized way to address infringement with Amazon or eBay or any of the large online marketplaces. So we consistently would write letters to Amazon. We would literally use the Contact Us tab on the seller page of Amazon to try and send a cease and desist letter through text. Amazon's response was always consistent. We aren't the seller of these products. We are just the marketplace that connects you with the seller. So we're not liable for patent infringement. And if you pushed hard enough, they would come back and say, okay, here's the contact information for the seller that we have. You're free to try and work it out with them. Well, that was either an individual here in the US that had bought 100 and was just trying to sell them to double their money, or it was, someone in China that was not responsive. Sometimes the email address wasn't even valid. You get a bounce back. So the problem was you really had no way of knowing and identifying who this person was. And even if you did identify who this person was, um, your options were to go and file what could be a potentially multi-million-dollar patent lawsuit in the federal courts. And unless you moved for a preliminary injunction, um, you might be looking at 2 years to even hopefully get some kind of decision out of the court after hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in legal fees. So none of that made any sense when you were having a new infringer pop up every other week.
Right.
Your legal budget would have been impossible.
Right. So now you're talking about our community here with independent inventors that most likely don't have those budgets. We're just starting, we're squeezing what we can into our product and trying to build a product line, and all of a sudden this happens. So, Bill, going through the contact us and realizing that they had a bigger issue probably than Bill and a few other people, probably a lot of people doing the same thing, trying to figure out how to take somebody off that's actually infringing. What was the next steps that you did, Bill?
Yeah. So to their credit, Amazon came to me and said, "Hey, we've been getting a lot of letters from you on a patent issue. We're kind of starting to think about a program and a solution internally. Would you be willing to talk to us and kind of help us to see if what we're thinking would work or would address your concerns?" So I met with several folks over at Amazon to kind of discuss what might work, and I don't want to take credit for their program because a lot of the ideation came from them. But I was able to kind of help them, from my perspective, understand what would be good and bad and what the concerns are that need to be met. And Amazon's primary issue, and to their credit, it's a legitimate one, is that, hey, patents are extremely complex. It's not like a trademark where you can just look at the listing and look at the trademark registration and say, yeah, you're probably infringing that trademark. Patents are extremely nuanced in what the claims cover and don't cover, what the prior art may be. Uh, there's all kinds of issues, and that's why sometimes patent litigation can be so cost prohibitive. So that was always their number one concern. But what I kind of kept guiding them back to is I'm like, look, I agree with you. There are always legitimate patent concerns and issues. But the majority of what you're seeing on your website is blatant infringement that that just simply doesn't have a path to being addressed. And so they designed this program, which started out as the Amazon Neutral Patent Evaluation Program. It's turned into the APEX program, which is APEX. I think it's short for Amazon Patent Express. But effectively, the way the program works is anyone that holds a U.S. patent can ask to have a complaint considered under the program. And effectively, you can identify any number of ASINs, I think up to 20, which are, sometimes you'll see a product have 5 or 10 different ASIN variations, so it can matter. But you submit that complaint to Amazon, and they will then take a look to see if your patent and the products are suitable for their program. I have yet to encounter a product that they determined to not be suitable, but my understanding is what they're principally looking for is they're looking for consumer products that they can look at and determine infringement or not without complex and sophisticated testing. So in other words, if Intel tried to get on there and say that some AMD microprocessor infringed, well, that's probably going to be a pretty detailed analysis to determine whether it infringes or not. Or if someone has a patent on a chemical that's embedded in a nail polish and somebody says, well, hey, I want to know if this infringes or not. Well, that's going to probably require some chemical analysis to make that call or not. But if we're talking about, a cup or a spoon or something like that, then the patent is a little bit more simple to say, hey, here's the patent in front of me, here's the product right next to it. I can make a determination, reasonably whether I believe this infringes or not.
Okay.
And so that's kind of where they've drawn the line on what's eligible for this program and what's not. And as you can imagine, the majority of items sold on Amazon tend to be in that category.
So, Bill, here I am. I'm selling my invention on Amazon. All of a sudden, I see somebody selling the same, similar, if not the same exact product under a different name or brand, different seller. And then the first thing I'm going to do is go into my admin, to my seller central on Amazon, and I'm going to put in infringement, or I'm going to go into the brand registry.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm going to start the process of capturing the ASINs, which are kind of like the barcodes of regular products, but ASIN is Amazon's. And I'm going to start comparing my patent to obviously what's existing. You're going to give that information over to Amazon as part of their Apex program, Amazon Express program. And then that's where the process begins. So what happens after I submit that, Bill?
Well, if you don't mind, let's take a step back and
Sure.
talk about how that actually occurs, because it's not easily available to those that don't know where to look.
Okay.
So I have to give a little bit of a disclaimer here. You can, as the patent owner and the business owner, you can go in and make this complaint on your own through Amazon and brand registry. I, however, caution you in doing so without talking to a patent lawyer first, because as we've talked about, the question of whether something infringes or not is very nuanced. And I have had folks come to me who have tried to do this program on their own, and for whatever reason were unsuccessful, or made a bad judgment call at the outset. And there were adverse consequences for that. For example, if you go to this program and you lose, you are basically prevented from ever complaining about that ASIN again. So by doing a bad job against your biggest competitor, you can really put yourself up against it. So I encourage all of my clients to run this stuff by me, and whether they want to submit it or I submit it, I want them to at least have my blessing on the infringement analysis before we submit it, because it's far too easy to just say that looks close enough and submit it without doing your due diligence, and something gets missed, and then you're in a bad situation. But if you'll pull up slide 1 there, this is a screenshot that we prepared from within brand registry. And the first thing that you have to do when you pull up this report a violation tool, which anyone who has brand registry has seen, is you identify the ASIN that you're complaining of. So for simplicity's sake here, we've identified one. It's a golf club. You could use comma separation and put in 10 or 15 ASINs if you so chose. You can also put in links to the products if that's easier for you. You then select those products, and then on the right-hand side, you see that menu. There's a button that basically says report, and depending on how many ASINs you enter, it'll say 2, 4, 5, 10. But these are the options that it gives you to select for a violation. So if someone has copied your, let's say somebody copies one of your images in your product detail page to sell your competing product, you might select copyright infringement because they've stolen the image that you own. If someone has named their product something identical to yours without your authorization, or even something confusingly similar, and you have a valid trademark registration authorized through Amazon or validated with Amazon, then you would select trademark infringement. Those are pretty simple processes that have been in place for quite some time. Amazon's really good at them right now, but they've been in place for a while. It is the selection of the patent infringement tab that brings you into the Apex world. That's where that program lives. So let's say we were to do what we've done on the screen here and then select patent infringement. That would then take us to slide 2, if you would, Brian. So what we see here is a little bit more detail, but at the top, we're basically being asked whether we have a design or a utility patent. We select our brand, You say, yes, you have a patent number. If you don't have a patent number, this isn't going to work for you. You type that patent number in. That's a random one that I made up. Typically, you then say, that the product infringes, and usually I identify a claim there. But then most importantly, it's going to give you 4 options. So you'll see the first option there is a court order. Very few people have this, but for example, if you sued somebody in court and won, and they listed the product on Amazon in violation of an injunction that you got, that's where you would select that court order. That probably doesn't happen very much. The exact same thing for the next one, which is an International Trade Commission order. That's if you filed an ITC complaint and won against a product. Again, probably doesn't happen very often. The next one is Amazon Patent Evaluation Express ID. That is what you would select once you're already in the program and you've been validated and successful with it. They'll give you an actual ID number, and that's where you would enter that. But if you're starting the program for the first time, what you would do is you would select the bottom one, which is none of these, and then learn about applying for Amazon Patent Evaluation Express. So you can read the little bit of language there, and then you basically say, yes, this is what I want to apply for. You type in the expiration date of your patent, which Google Patents can help you calculate if you're not so savvy. And then also it's going to ask you for a claim number, because the Apex program operates on one claim number. If you sue somebody in federal court, you're probably going to argue they infringe multiple claims, 5, 10, 20, maybe even all of them. But the Apex program, for simplicity, is pick your best claim. Let's talk about your best claim. So what you would do is you would do this, and then you would hit submit, and nothing will happen immediately, but a case will get created internally within Amazon and brand registry, and someone will internally conduct a brief review of your patent and the products you're complaining about, and determine whether or not they believe it's something susceptible to their process. In my experience, the majority of the time they come back and they say, yes, this appears to be eligible for brand registry or for Apex review, and they will send you an agreement, which basically lays out some terms under which the agreement or the program operates, and then you have to formally opt into the program by signing that agreement. Again, reiterating the ASINs that you want to complain of, and then you return that to them.
Okay, Bill.
Yep.
Also, with the patent expiration dates, just for the viewers that are listening or watching this right now, the patent expiration date. So a design patent is 15 years and a utility patent is 20 years, and they're both from the filing date, not from when the patent was issued.
So it's a little more complicated than that.
Okay.
But you're in the ballpark. So there can be priority dates, there can be all kinds of stuff, but yeah, 15 and 20 years from the filing date, there's patent term extension, there's all kinds of stuff. You want to be as accurate as possible, but that's probably not a mission critical answer, to be honest with you.
Okay.
The reason Amazon asks that is they don't want somebody utilizing their program on an expired or soon to expire patent. So they just want to know that you've got a good bit of runway. And in my experience, most people dealing with infringers on Amazon have gotten their patent in the last few years.
Okay.
So term is usually not an issue.
And realistically, Bill, most of the time, if you correct me if I'm wrong, but people are infringing on, or companies are infringing on products that have had some level of success selling on Amazon.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's unfortunately an easy catalog for them. They just can run metrics and look for highly rated products that are somewhat of a easy to manufacture level. They either purchase them or find some way to duplicate them, and they try to throw it on there. They try to use similar words in the title to kind of grab that attention. And in some instances, it's done by the company itself. In some instances, it's done by somewhat legitimate businesses. They tend to usually try to dodge the patent a little bit, whereas some of the other less sophisticated folks will simply just knock it off. And a lot of times, especially during the pandemic, we found a lot of people that would, take a few $1,000s and buy a product on AliExpress or Alibaba and then try to brand it and sell it on Amazon, not having the sophistication to do a patent search and understand what they're getting themselves into. So there are all kinds that wind up leading to these products, but they still need to be dealt with regardless.
Do you feel that putting our patent number on our listing would be a deterrent for people infringing?
It can't hurt. I've always perceived, or at least been told, that putting a patent number on a product or putting a patent number on a marketing piece or a listing kind of ups the perception in the consumer's mind of the product. That it's an advancement or it's some technological increase, or that there's a more legitimate business behind it. So there's absolutely that benefit. I can't tell you, I've never represented an Amazon knockoff artist, so I can't tell you whether having the patent on the listing or not dissuades them. But it certainly is an interesting question, and I don't know, because the majority of the time these folks aren't looking, and the reason for that is they manufacture this stuff in China. They ship it into the U.S. You're not going to get money from them. And that's one of the rules of the Amazon program, is you're not going to recover money. All you're going to do is hopefully quickly get the product taken down and kept off of the site.
Here I am. I go through the program, the Apex program. I fill out the information. I'm not necessarily in it yet, but I'm applying to be in it. 2 days later, they let me know, hey, you look like you're eligible. Here's what you do next. So
Yep.
if you can explain to us what happens now with
Yep.
if there's money, there's no money, who pays?
So I've represented a lot of folks in utilizing this program. And so early on, after the program got finalized, I put together kind of a little caricature animation to try and help people understand this. So I hope that this goes well. I haven't used this in a year or two, but I hope this goes well. So if you'll shift over the animation, I'll kind of walk you through the process and how things go. Okay, so we have our friend, the patent holder, down here in the bottom left-hand corner. And as always seems to happen, he's got his patent and he is just printing money on Amazon, selling his widget left and right. And we all wish the story would end there, but it doesn't. Our good friend Joe Infringer shows up, and wouldn't you know it, Joe's product is 20 or 50% cheaper. And so sales quickly go away from Paul, and Joe starts making the majority of those sales. So Paul is certainly not happy. And his first thought is, hey, that guy's product infringes. That's why I went out and got a patent. What can I do? And so that's where the notice from Paul goes to Amazon. And that's basically the 2 slides that we just went over, of submitting the complaint to Amazon through Apex and then following up by completing the contract once you're accepted. So everything from this point will be new. Once you're put into the program, Amazon will send a notice to Joe and say, hey, as a seller of one of these ASINs, we've received a patent infringement complaint. Here's the patent number. Here's who submitted the complaint. You have 21 days to consider whether you want to contest this allegation under the Apex program or not. And if you don't contest it under the Apex program, we will remove it from Amazon. I've seen a lot of different reactions. Sometimes you will get a letter from the lawyer for the seller. The majority of time you hear nothing. Sometimes you will see the seller suddenly discount their product 30 or 40% to try and close it all out. That's a little frustrating. I've even seen people run off and file a lawsuit. So it's a critical moment that I wish wasn't as long as it is, but that's what Amazon decided on. So once that 21-day window is up, Joe Infringer can do a number of things. So if Joe Infringer is silent, which as I told you happens the majority of the time, Amazon will remove the listings. Basically, once that 21-day window closes, a day or two after, Amazon will let you know, hey, we didn't get a challenge from them, so we're going to pull those listings. Conversely, if our friend Joe Infringer sends a notice to Amazon that says, I do want to challenge that infringement allegation, it's not accurate, then Amazon runs out and finds our friend Peter Practitioner. And Peter Practitioner is an experienced patent lawyer who has had some experience in litigating patent cases and who has agreed to handle things under Amazon's rules and procedures. And so they will run out and select that person, and usually within 4 or 5 days, they will let both parties know, hey, here's your practitioner. He's going to set the schedule on how this evaluation goes. And oh, by the way, in order to get started, I need some money from both of you. So both parties are now obligated to deposit with Peter Practitioner $4,000 into escrow. This is enough money that anyone participating in this has to be serious. And I've seen a lot of times where Joe Infringer here will submit the notice, and then a week or two later when the money's due, they're done. That's where they back out. And if that happens, then it's as if they didn't submit a notice and you get the product taken down. But
Now,
assuming they
Paul,
do,
patent holder, can wait
yep.
to see if Joe Infringer sends the money first?
No, they're both due at the same date and time.
Okay.
So typically what you have to do is you have to deposit your $4,000, and if the other guy doesn't, you get yours back in a couple days. Peter Practitioner sends it back.
Okay.
So assuming both parties put up the money, and now we're in the very small percentages of what actually happens in these. I've probably submitted, I would guess, over 1,000 ASINs for removal. I would guess it's less than a dozen or two that make it this far. For the most part, you never hear, and there's no contest. But assuming you make it this far and the money gets deposited, then Peter Practitioner sets the schedule, and effectively the patent holder has the first submission. I like to think of it as a very simple summary judgment brief. Amazon, this is limited to infringement of one claim from your patent. There is no consideration of prior art, which is a big issue in patent litigation. So that's completely off the table. So the issues are very streamlined as to, does this product infringe or not? So you have 21 days to submit your brief, which you could theoretically do yourself. You may more likely have a lawyer do. After receiving that, Joe will get a copy. Joe has 14 days to respond with his brief, and then you have 7 days after his brief to respond with your reply. That is very familiar to lawyers and the way courts work. Once that's done, Peter Practitioner will take it on the paper. There's no arguments. There's no oral stuff. He has 14 days. I don't think that's a rigid rule, but he's supposed to rule within 14 days of receiving the last brief. Mm-hmm. Now, here's where it gets a little interesting, in my opinion. If Peter Practitioner finds infringement by the product, then Joe Infringer's listing is taken down, and you get your $4,000 back as the patent holder. Peter Practitioner gets to hold on to Joe's $4,000 as payment for his services rendered. Conversely, and a situation we never hope to be in, is if Peter Practitioner finds that the complained of product does not infringe. If that happens, Amazon will maintain the listings, and Joe Infringer gets his $4,000 back, and we can all guess what happens to our $4,000 as that gets paid to Peter Practitioner.
Ouch.
For the services. So it's kind of a loser pays type situation.
Got it. Well, that
And
was a great slideshow. I mean, very clear understanding of what happens and what the process is originally to be able to get to this point.
yeah,
And hopefully us as inventors, we're doing our due diligence and making sure that what we're complaining about is actually legit.
correct.
And
Yeah,
we could do it on our own if it's pretty clear, or we hire somebody like yourself, and you seem like you're pretty well established, especially with these Amazon infringement cases, and to look it over and say, you know what, Amazon said you're eligible, but it does pretty much look different, or it might function different, or your patent's expired. So what are you doing?
right.
Right?
Yeah.
So these are the things that we have to know before we get into it. This way we can make better decisions and judgments here.
And there is, this is the nuts and bolts of the program. But there are some other advantages that your group should know of. Once, if you go through this entire process and you get a finding of infringement, Amazon will almost always elevate you within the program. And what I mean by that is they will give you the Apex ID we were talking about, and they will start to take down listings that you complained of within 24 hours.
That's great.
And
So
they're no
you're
longer,
setting a precedent.
yeah, they're no longer subject to these people complaining and trying to dispute you. Now, if somebody makes a big enough complaint and has a lawyer reach out to Amazon, Amazon may back up and order you to a neutral evaluation like this. But where it's tremendously valuable is if you've got, just a flood of infringers over the course of months or a year. It's no fun to have 21 days where they get to keep selling. So once you've proven to Amazon that, hey, I can win one of these, or if you submit enough without somebody ever challenging you, Amazon will presume that you're just right. So once you get to that elevation level in the program, this becomes an extremely powerful tool to keep infringers off and to get them off quickly.
Now, if I end up winning that case, let's say I didn't pay and the infringer didn't pay, they didn't do anything in 21 days.
Correct.
So their listing came down. Am I still eligible for that Apex number?
There's no rhyme or reason behind that. I think it's really luck of the draw. It's really, once there's no rules that define when you're eligible and not. The only thing I can guarantee you is if you win a neutral evaluation, you'll get an Apex ID.
Right.
Sometimes if you submit 2 or 3 rounds for 5 or 10 ASINs, they'll give you that Apex ID if nobody contests. Sometimes if you submit one and for 10 or 15 and nobody complains, they'll give it to you. So it's kind of subjective on their end. But once you've basically met a critical mass of complaints, either by winning or by not being challenged, Amazon kind of gives you that credibility and elevates you in the program. And on
Right.
that one screen we were looking at, rather than saying I'm interested in joining the program, you say I have an Apex ID and you share it with them. And that's where they act on things much quicker.
Very good. Bill, this was great. And I know that the people out there who unfortunately feel like they're getting infringed, sometimes they might feel hopeless. They don't know what to do. I mean, it's Amazon has a great program behind the scenes of being able to contact somebody there, which will guide you to these steps that we just went over to fill out.
Yeah.
And you kind of gave us some insight here on what to expect and the different options and challenges and decisions that are made and what the financial uh, burden might be
Yeah.
to challenge it. But if you're in the right, then most likely you're not paying. If it's the other way, then you'll pay, or the other party will pay. So we appreciate this very much, Bill. Thank you so much.
And it's a tremendous resource, because so many people are doing business on Amazon these days in a substantial way. And the ability of this system to provide, enforcement of a patent, but still have some, objective evaluation done of it, rather than just, taking one party or other party's word. Um, you know, in those situations, it's massively better than the court system is.
Bill, there are inventors that are at the beginning stages of their idea and they're interested in learning about this, so they're watching or they're listening. And then there's other inventors that are in the middle working on their prototype and getting their patent in order and IP protection in order, whatever it is, patents, copyrights, trademarks. And then there's inventors that are commercializing their invention and going to market with it, getting out there on Amazon. So you've kind of seen it all from your legal aspect. Can you give us some words of wisdom to the inventors at all different stages of just thinking that they want to commercialize their idea and sell it on Amazon?
Yeah, I mean, to me, always keeping intellectual property in mind is important. You know, if anyone on this call takes one thing from this, when you commercially launch or tell someone else about, post on Kickstarter, whatever you do to publicly disclose your invention, you have 1 year in which to file a patent. If you don't file it in that 1 year, you have forever sacrificed it. If you come to my office and say, Bill, I launched a Kickstarter campaign, 54 weeks ago, I want to file a patent application. We may have a nice conversation, but we're probably not going to be able to file the patent application that you had hoped to. So that is my golden rule of the patent law world, that anytime I get a chance to throw out in the public so that hopefully somebody that didn't know that can learn it, that's an important one. Secondarily, always be aware of your brand. Establishing a brand, choosing a strong trademark is helpful. A lot of folks want to describe their product kind of as generically as they can, and unfortunately that makes for a very weak trademark in most cases. So the more unique and outlandish your trademark is, the more ability you have to build up tremendous value in it. Aside from that, keep plugging. I truly enjoy day in and day out, meeting and discussing and hearing stories from inventors like are in the audience here. And I have tremendous respect for everyone that does it and finds a way to navigate all of the pitfalls and mazes and get things to come out in their favor on almost all of those instances to get a product to market. It's one of the joys of my job, is to get to meet those new people. And to be honest with you, that's one of the things this Apex program has given me is an opportunity to meet all of those folks. And Amazon is an insanely complex place. But if you have a good product, there are ways to manipulate it and get it to do what you need it to do.
Excellent. Bill, thank you so much. How can we get in touch with you?
Yeah, so we have, you can reach us via our website, uspatent.com. It is a web domain that one of our more senior partners had the foresight to capture way back in the day before domain names were even popular. Or you can reach out to me directly. My phone number is area code 317-713-4974. Or if you're on our website, you can find my email address as part of my biography on that page.
Bill, thank you again for your insight and for your support to the inventor community out there. This was fantastic, coming from a pioneer in the beta testing of the Amazon infringement part of their website, and enough contact us pages, submissions ended up getting you to where you are today with helping out with this. So very much appreciate it, and I know everybody else does. Thank you again. We'll see you soon. Thank you very much, Bill.
Thanks, Brian. Glad to do it.
Thank you. That was a special edition of National Inventor Club. Please join the Inventor Smart Community app, and you can become a part of National Inventor Club as well. You can go to inventorsmart.app and you'll sign up there and you'll see National Inventor Club within the app. You can also download it on the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. Thank you very much again, and keep on making your ideas a reality, selling on Amazon, and know your rights. And we know them after today. Thank you again. We'll see you soon.